discourse is there isn't a lot of variety of political parties to choose from. You're always given a choice between establishment blue or establishment red, whereas in almost every other democratic nation all over the planet, there is a diversity of parties, so general political discourse within society isn't as simple as us versus them tribalism. So people are able to think of a variety of different approaches to a political problem. Politics in the United States can easily be summed up as a top-down corporatocratic regime, philosophically centered around the idea of capitalism and infinite growth economics. My experience as a political organizer has allowed me to see things more clearly since I had the opportunity to see exactly how political campaigns operate and exactly how an individual goes from citizen to political representative, or how a policy goes from an idea to becoming a law. Whether it is the introduction of a new policy or the election of a new representative, it basically goes down like this. At the very top, there is a corporatocracy, a collection of transnational firms with a tremendous amount of financial power. These firms exist for one reason and one reason alone: to maximize their growth and to minimize their losses. By the way, this is a very important thing to remember, so you don't end up confused by the absolute immorality of their antisocial decisions and oftentimes ecologically destructive decisions. These firms don't make decisions based on any moral grounds. They don't have any ethical guidelines or standards. They simply seek to maximize growth. They may be made up of people, but the firms are not biological entities. They are not persons. They are machines that can only do one of two things: make money and avoid losing money, with absolutely no prejudice and no morality. In order to maximize their profit, they introduce policies into the fold by way of elections of individuals who will represent them in the Congress. Firms donate insurmountable quantities of money to political campaigns of individuals who will represent them. And the way they do this is via a legal vehicle called the independent expenditure, commonly referred to as Super PAC. A Super PAC is a very fancy term for a company that exists to give bribes to politicians. The way this legal entity achieves this is by giving money not to politicians directly, but by giving money to organizing firms who will then run political campaigns on behalf of the candidate in question. By, for example, running television and radio advertisements, phone banking and canvassing campaigns, paying academics and other influential people to show up and to mainstream media sources, for example, and speak positively about them, creating positive news columns, and of course doing opposition research and attacks on rival candidates. If everything goes as planned, then the corporate hegemons, by virtue of their immense financial wealth, successfully introduce a new political representative for themselves into the Congress. There is also a very important part to this scam, and that is the political parties themselves. Effectively, political parties serve only one purpose, and that is selection. The corporatocracy can't simply send its own representatives to run for political office. They need a pool of individuals to pick from, a pool of individuals who have been pre-screened and pre-selected for the job, individuals who have been groomed by the party and have all the expertise to operate as political representatives, and most importantly, people who will without a doubt support the economic needs of those firms and help further maximize their profits. This is the job of political parties. It is to screen and select for who is going to be on the ballot. From the outside looking in, after every November election, it appears like there has been a very hard-fought political battle over ideology and the path the country and its people are going to take to make the world a better place for themselves and their children. But in reality, it's all just a show. Everything has been predetermined before the first vote was cast. And regardless of who wins, everybody on the ballot with any real chance of winning has already been a darling of the economic establishment. So once in a while, a policy might take hold that is pro-social, but none of these policies could ever be enacted if they stood in the way of the corporatocracy, or if they jeopardized the raison d'etre of the corporatocracy, which is simply profit maximization and the prevention of loss. The establishment wins, and the political elections hold legitimacy with the people, and everybody can go home happy, feeling that they have done their part and casted a ballot. Whether they have won or lost, democracy was upheld as far as they are concerned. Except in reality, they could have just stayed home, and the results would have been the same. Economic policy would be the same, foreign policy would be the same, everything would go exactly in accordance to the political establishment's will. Now, I don't say all of this to suggest that political organizing is itself a lost cause. I think organizing is very important, but in a system that is dominated by a rigid establishment framework that exists to send public money into private hands, as famously exclaimed by Julian Assange, there is really no point to any of it. Of course, there is still hope for the United States to become a representative democracy. For example, there is a movement to instate ranked choice voting, which would allow individuals to vote for people who have not been screened and selected by the political corporate establishment. It would allow outsiders to run for higher office, and it would incentivize people to vote for individuals with little chance of winning without feeling like they have wasted their vote. Which, as we just explained, it's completely nonsensical because votes have absolutely no merit when the establishment has already selected all the possible winners ahead of time and made sure they are going to serve them and serve them first and foremost. Ranked choice voting might be the last chance the United States of America has at creating a system of classical liberalism and representative democracy. But that's a conversation for a different day. All in all, I don't think we can really get money out of politics. Just as we can't take sound out of music, the two are intertwined. It's natural for firms to seek profit maximization within our economic model and to seek controlling the governance process in their endeavor to maximize profit. To try and pass legislation to make super PACs illegal, for example, simply would not work because they're the primary tools by which the firms control policy creation, and they would never allow this tool to be revoked or hindered in any way. So the best that people can do within the standard framework is to work within this top-down and democratic monarchy of transnational corporations to seek to create an alternative system of living, economizing and governing themselves. This is why I believe eco-villages and creating an alternative system that would allow for a transition from the standard economic model is paramount not only to democracy, but also to ensuring the survival of the species. Since if these firms continue to operate as they do, they will eventually destroy themselves and everything around them. Since, as previously mentioned, ecological well-being can't matter to them. They have absolutely no reason to care about sustainability measures or even human life. They are incapable of doing that. And they lack the ability to care about the economic externalities they are causing, since any possible funds or punishments they receive for causing these externalities is simply seen as a cost of doing business, an operating expense that can be afforded. The continuation of human life is going to be determined by whether or not we can create transitional steps towards a better society within the standard economic framework.